Welcome.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome, everyone. I'm DJ Heckes, CEO of EXHIB-IT, Trade Show Marketing Experts, author of Full Brain Marketing, and co-author of The Noise Behind Business, How to Make Trade Shows Work. I hope many of you attended the last webinar from April 22nd, and you're continuing with our series of webinars offered every quarter. April 22nd, and are continuing with our series of webinars offered. So today is a great day if you've set a goal to establish connections with trade show attendees for innovative marketing. So welcome to The Noise Behind Business, How to Make Trade Shows Work for you in 2014. We'll be covering today notable exhibiting trends for maximizing your visual and verbal communications, for developing a return on relationships from your trade show dollars, but once you commit to trade show marketing as part of that innovation. Remember, when you exhibit at a trade show, there's a lot of noise in business that it's easy to lose track of your message and connect with your audience. So this is why the Noise Behind Business title came about today, and we'll elaborate on the importance of buyers meeting sellers face-to-face. Because, as you all know, there are a lot of trade shows, really over 30 shows a day, and 30 million attendees. So knowing industry exhibiting trends and what it takes to create a good-looking booth for connecting with trade show attendees, it can be overwhelming and challenging. Knowing where to begin and having that end in mind is what will determine your success. So as we go through our webinar presentation today, please, at any time, ask questions on the panel board, and we will answer them throughout the presentation. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A session to answer any additional questions. So to ask a question throughout this presentation, you'll see a pop-up menu on your computer screen. Look for the questions section, and there's a box to the left with a plus symbol, and to the right to enlarge your screen box. You can ask direct questions as we go throughout the webinar today, or cover them at the end. So now I'd like to take some time to recognize our webinar sponsor, Nomadic Display. They're the world's leading producer of high-quality, custom, modular, and portable trade show displays. And I thank them, and Laura does, for sponsoring each of our 2000 webinar series. And also now, I'd like to introduce you to my co-presenter, Laura Furamoto.
Thanks, DJ. You know, standing out from the crowd, if you've never been to a trade show, we have a significant number of attendees today that have not. It's loud, it's busy, it can be pretty overwhelming. The Center for Exhibition Industry Research reports that 7 out of 10 attendees plan to buy one or more products. So despite all that noise and despite all that activity and distraction, they're there to buy. 72% of show visitors said the show influenced their buying decisions. 76% asked for quotes. 87% of attendees share some of the information that they obtained at exhibitions. Now, your visual and verbal communication can strategically help increase those odds in your favor. This is the third in our 4-part webinar series for 2014. Now, today's program is designed to help you understand how to maximize your visual and verbal communication and why it's crucial for success. Before we get started, there are just a few housekeeping points that we need to cover. If you're experiencing any technical difficulties, please contact GoToWebinar Tech Support at 855-352-9003. Be sure to jot down notes and ideas on your how-to guide that was distributed upon registration. Don't worry about copying every slide's information because you'll receive an email from us in a couple of days with a link to download the presentation in a PDF format. Now, if you don't have your how-to guide, be sure and go right now and switch to your email and download it. It came in a link with your registration confirmation because you'll need that to be fully engaged in the webinar today. For those online today who did not attend the April webinar, let's do a quick recap.
Thanks, Laura. You know, we talked about in April a consistent process for selecting the right shows to give you that powerful due diligence. We went over budgeting before you select a show that gives you pre-show control and increased ROI, return on investment post-show, and how to get buy-in from all the relevant players in the company in the planning phase to prevent that post-show conflict that happens. We went over the 10-point litmus test that defines expectations for pre-show, before the show even starts. And then we tied in technology with objectives to integrate all of your resources for higher efficacy. So let's talk about today's webinar takeaways. We will cover notable exhibiting trends in our industry, key ingredients for a great booth, what an exhibiting company should do for you, and how to connect with trade show attendees by understanding personality types and the 5 generational profiles. Again, if you'd like to download for the April webinar to listen to it, write down the web address shown at the bottom of this slide. And for this webinar today, the audio files will be available within 3 business days after this webinar date, and a link will be sent to your email address. Now let's see who's attending today's webinar.
Thanks, DJ. I'd like to thank all of our attendees for taking the time to provide the profile information during registration. I thought you'd be interested to know that today's group is pretty diverse. For example, in industry, most of you are in healthcare, advertising, and some type of financial or entertainment industry. 61% of you have between 1 to 20 employees, 8% of you 21 to 50 employees, 25% of you 1 to 100 employees, and then the remainder have 5,000 plus employees. 31% of you have between 0 and 99,000 gross revenue per year, 25% of you between 100 and 499,000, 14% of you between 500,000 and 1 million, 11% of you between 1 million and 5 million, and 17% of our attendees today, the company's gross revenue per year are over 5 million. 22% of you have not participated in any trade shows at all. 37% of you have participated in between 1 and 5 trade shows, 8% between 6 and 10, and in 20 or more shows, 31%. So that's pretty good. We have a lot of seasoned folks as well as people who haven't attended before, and we've got great information for either one. The level of trade shows that you participated in, 48% of you have participated in local shows, 28% regional, 14 national, and we have almost 9% that have participated in international shows. 20% have not exhibited before. Again, that's the answer, so it's pretty close to 5 to the 22% of the previous question. Have you been happy with results of your trade show experience? 28% said no. So that is a great opportunity. We're going to have a lot of clues for you today throughout the webinar on how to be happy with your results and get better results next time. And 50% of you said you're actually happy with the results, so I'm imagining you're just looking at an extra edge over the competition. The majority of you, your biggest trade show challenge was obtaining quality leads and then creating metrics to measure return on investment and get a positive return on investment. And your biggest trade show triumphs, the majority of them were sales. And then you had new displays that you have better communicate and educate your clients and potential clients. Who coordinates trade show activity at your company? 37% the marketing manager, 40% other, which is people wrote in like another department head or a vice president, 14% sales manager, and 14% special events manager. So that summarizes all the questions that we ask. We appreciate your time and responses. Now, they're enabling us to tailor today's program just to you and your demographic. So let's dig a little further and get to know a little bit about why you're here today and what your pressing issues are. Let's go ahead and take a live poll. Attendees, please take a look at your screen. Upper right-hand corner should be a dashboard. Excuse me, not the dashboard. It should be a poll section. Go ahead and unlock that. Just click on it. And take a minute to answer the following question. One response, please. Number 1, I'm new and need guidance on exhibit design and trends. 2, I'm new and want guidance on communications with different personality types and generations. Or 3, I have experience and want to know how an exhibiting company can help us maximize our trade show presence. All right, go ahead and answer, attendees, if you could. We'll give you about a minute. Okay, looks like people are still voting, so I'll wait for a second. Okay, I think everybody's answered now. 17% of you are new and need guidance on exhibit design and trends. 33% want guidance on communicating personality types and generations. And 50% want to know how to maximize the trade show presence by how an exhibiting company can help you with that. Well, that's perfect because we'll address each of those areas today, and if you need more in-depth information, you can wait till the Q&A session at the end of the webinar or call or email us afterwards. You know, the numbers support hands-on interaction. Trade show attendees go to exhibitions for face-to-face and hands-on experiences. Survey participants will ask to choose their favorite way to interact on an exhibition floor, and they can select more than one answer. So let's take a look at what attendees really want. For all respondents across the board, 58.9% want to see product demonstrations. 58% want to have hands-on interaction with products. 22% like to participate in group discussions, and 15.5% like to watch videos. Now, the bottom two choices are clearly more passive experiences. So while it's nice to offer group discussions and videos, don't rely on those two tactics exclusively if you want to engage with attendees. Use them to enhance the experience at your booth instead. Now, the source for these statistics is shown on the slide above if you want to go ahead and get some more detailed information. So let's go ahead and take another live poll. Go ahead and answer the following questions, and this time you can do multiple responses. Go again to your poll section and pick whatever applies to you. Do you offer these currently at trade shows? 1, do you offer product demonstrations? 2, hands-on interaction with products. 3, group discussions. And 4, video. Go ahead and take a minute to answer. Looks like folks are still voting. Okay, looks like the majority of people have voted. All right, so 50% use product demonstrations currently. That's great. 50% also use hands-on interaction with products. 57% group discussions and 7% videos. Okay, great. It looks like the majority of you are using the tools that the attendees said they want. And if you're not, we're going to go ahead and give you some hints and clues on how to maximize those tools that we've listed here. Now, we'll address each of these areas today, and if you need more in-depth information than what we cover, you can wait till the Q&A session at the end of the webinar, or call or email us afterwards. So let's take a look at how we can all take advantage of these industry trends and design tactics to help give attendees what they really want. It all starts with your story. What's your story? We live in a world of stories, and the stories we repeat to ourselves become our truth. So telling those compelling stories about your brand is at the heart of what you're doing at exhibitions. These stories build interest and foster trust, which results in sales now or in the future. So when you go back to the roots of exhibitions, you'll find that graphics, exhibits, advertising, and social media didn't exist, because back then your exhibit was based on personality, product, and story low tech, but it wasn't very effective. The story either resulted in a sale or you went hungry. As Barry Chadikoff writes in his book, the tool that tells the story, new narratives and meta lives in the age of connected devices. As we move from techno-cultures, from oral to alphabetic to visual to digital, our stories change because these tools alter our sense of self, and in short, new tools create newer selves. The exhibit industry, has been innovative in finding tools to tell these stories. It evolved over time to be more collaborative and multidimensional, because that's all what the exhibit board is all about now. Once you decide your story, you have many tools in your arsenal. So DJ, let's talk about how industry trends and food design best practices can be advantageous to this multidimensional approach, as there's so much to cover in this area.
You know, in this slide we're going to spend some time on, everyone, because this is so critical to success at trade shows. To keep pace with a more sophisticated visitor who consumes information differently than ever before, and that's really thanks to the internet and mobile technology, exhibitors need to embrace and integrate communication preferences. So I'll give you some examples. You know, telephone usage, which includes landline, mobile, and voicemail, it's declined in favor of email, text, and other social media. And you know, we now have approximately 12.5% fewer phone calls than we did even 5 years ago. And the average mobile user, they download 260% more data than a year ago. And text messaging topped phone usage in 2008. So we live in a world that's dominated by text-based communications ever since then. And 78% of teens now, they're going to be entering the workforce very soon. And they're making decisions in the future. And they recognize the functionality and convenience of short message service, also known as SMS or texting. And they consider it easier, 20%, and faster, 20%, than voice calls, though they're still fun. And voice activity has decreased 14% among teens, who average over 646 minutes talking on the phone per month. So you should be asking yourselves 2 questions. Will digital communication replace the need to hear a voice and see a face? And the second one, are trade shows in danger of being replaced by these current and future technological developments? Well, I'm here to tell you the answer to both questions is not likely. You know, this opinion is also shared by Daniel Burris. Now, he's considered one of the world's leading technology forecasters and innovation experts, and he's also the author of 6 books, including Technotrends. And he quotes, "Even though in the future we will have more and more technology in our lives, we need to always remember that we live in a human world, and that means creating positive relationships that will increasingly be the key to success." And trade shows do have a bright future because they're all about establishing new relationships and reinforcing old ones. I'd like to share with you a recent survey. There was 226 business-to-business organizations. Now 70%, they say, of all sales leads are completely ignored or not even leveraged. Now that wastes precious marketing program dollars. And that's not the only reason, but here's several. Let's talk about 4. Number 1 is legacy. Until technology intervened, marketing has been more about push messaging than building a customer dialogue. Now this caused leads to suffer from garbage in, garbage out, which was characterized with poor lead quality. Then we have number 2, that's technology. That's where you track, you monitor, and you respond to lead interest. Well, it had been a manual effort, and it was difficult to manage. Until recently, there's new automation tools that have rectified this issue, and lead nurturing is improving with customer-centric content and relationship-building tools. Then we have the perception. Now, this is where you have change in generational perceptions of leads, and that takes time. Now, then there's the politics, which we all don't want to admit, but you have marketing and sales have historically been at odds about accountability for trade show leads. Marketing creates a trade show marketing program, while sales staffs the exhibit and follows up on the leads. But sometimes that handoff between marketing and sales, even though it's defined, is really never easy, and this is where things can get sticky. You know, when it comes to a return on investment, marketing is accountable for dollars spent, while sales is accountable for the sales lead outcome. And this creates 2 silos, though. You have 2 agendas and 2 perspectives on who really gets credit for the sales and outcome. Now, while sales and marketing are in the same sandbox, that doesn't mean they're always working on the same sandcastle. So remember, trade show selling is much different than field selling. And most companies really don't train their staff accordingly. Therefore, it's any wonder that leads are coming from trade shows and they're perceived as having the same sales value as leads from other marketing mediums. Technology is your friend, and it's transformed all business, and this includes exhibit design. But technology is also a double-edged sword that can distract from your brand and messaging instead of adding value. So I'd like to talk to you about some technology things to consider and end with this. I would think about interactive media that can engage your attendees and tell stories in your booth space. And then video to capture attention. Then you have data capture devices to record leads and catalog the content viewed at the show. You have radio frequency identification devices, known as RFID, that can track visitors and exhibit floor plan effectiveness. I've seen holograms also lately to attract attention, and they add novelty inside your booth space. And then smart cards, we've heard of those, where you can track visitor engagement within the exhibit. And then you have improved authenticity to personalize attendee experiences. And most importantly, nonverbal communication recognition to engage and capture all those interactions within your booth space. You know, you heard Laura say the stats about all the technology of what attendees really want. Well, those are just some of them. So I hope you found all of this to be informative, and you'll start thinking of ways to use technology in your own shows. So that brings us to QR codes. You know, QR codes are much more than just black and white designs. You can customize by color, and there's even some that you can add in your branded logo and use for downloading key information and land on a specific landing page on your website. You can see some examples that we added in. One's for exhibit on the slide. We have our exhibit logo, and the QR code goes to our online product catalog page, where sometimes we offer promotions, and it has our logo embedded for branding. Now, the other one to the right is one that we have for a special event that we host every year. It's our B2B branding, and it goes to a special event landing page. And then when you get on there, it usually has details about the event, how to sign up, pay payments. Now, this event was in June of 2014, so it's over. But start thinking of ways that you can cross-brand your corporate branding and try out a custom QR code. And more specifically, where would that QR code take your attendees or your end user when they're on your website? Be sure it's not just the home page. And remember, you can design as many as you want for each one to go to a different landing page and capture those metrics on each page with the QR code. So now we've talked a little bit about technology. Let's move on to key ingredients for a great booth. Now that's important because remember, you've done all the technology, you've done your pre-show marketing that we talked about in April and January, and really let's talk about, I love what this slide says, write the play before you design the set. So what are your objectives? What are your goals? What do you plan to do with the exhibit to engage your attendees in the booth? And then designing to enhance selling versus creating a monument for your ego. You know, it's so easy that we get so tied up in our own brand that we understand it, we live and we breathe it, but really the end user or the attendee may not. So how are you going to attract them, either selling the product or a service or gathering leads? And then third, provide a positive customer experience versus satisfying personal tastes and preferences. You know, it used to be before 2008, we could just design a great booth and people would show up. But now, it's not about just the design. Yes, that attracts them, but what is that experience that you're going to create? So think about ways that you can create that experience for attendees in your booth. It's no longer a world where we just show up and have a great booth and that's all it takes. It's a well-written, thought-out plan to engage attendees for them to experience your company and personality, and most importantly, remember you. So that goes on to the 6 ingredients, the key ingredients for a great booth. There's some important elements I want you to see on this screen when you're designing a new exhibit for your trade show. And, you know, the important part is, as you can see on the slide, you start with your company name or branding first. But that's only if you're well known. What if you're in a new market and they don't know you, but your tagline or your call to action line is even an emotional engaging for the audience? Maybe you want to switch it, where you put your emotional hot button at the top and your branding second until you're well known, and then you can reverse it. And people tend to read in an F pattern or really the younger generation, in a Z pattern. You can see how the messaging starts at the top, then it goes, down to the center, and it takes you into two parts. That's where you have your solutions and your services. And then smaller if you want to list features and benefits. Now the key really is not to put a lot of text, and let your graphic image or a couple images speak volumes. And your handouts and your booth staffers should be the ones telling the story, and the display, the design, should be the billboard to attract your attention for the audience. So now let's talk about some pre-design things to consider.
Thank you, Jay. I just, if I could.
Yeah.
I guess we have some attendees who are still on the live poll slide for some reason. And so attendees, if you can close the poll section of your screen, you should be able to see the next slide, which is sales sync up in the pre-design phase. And if you're still having trouble, please make sure and send us another question or another heads up if you're still not able to see the slides. And you might need to refresh your screen or log back into the webinar. And if anyone else besides these few folks are having an issue, please let us know on the questions, and then we'll address it from an admin perspective. Anyway, thank you, and DJ, I'm sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. That's so important. I know I'm seeing the slides on my screen. I hope each one of you can too, because there's some great information here. So we're on the slide of 6 things to consider for your pre-design. Now, I love what the things say. How do you want visitors to travel through your exhibit? Well, do you want them to stand outside the booth space for a demonstration that you want to do to many, or do you want them to come inside your space and make it personal? Then the second thing I'd ask is, what corporate product stories need to be told? Have this prepared ahead of time so that all your booth staffers have the same messaging when you're in the booth. Number 3, should there be a linear controlled path or a more free-flowing non-linear space? Well, I'd ask you, do you want your visitors to have a formal seating area, or do you want them to stand in certain locations and flow in your space to learn more? And then the fourth thing is, what sales tools are needed and where to tell your story and engage visitors? I'd ask you this, are you creating an experience with video or technology apps or other sources to engage your audience? And then the last one I'd ask, or number 5 out of 6, is how would you capture customer impressions and data? Are you using a lead capturing device with pre-qualifying questions or software, maybe with a touch screen, that you can capture the data that you share with the attendee at the show and track the results? And lastly, number 6, what do you want the visitor to think and feel about your company when leaving the exhibit? And really, what is the last impression that you're creating? So when you're designing your new exhibit, think about ways for really, how can you be remembered? Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you for the sales sync up and pre-design phase.
Thanks, DJ. As we've talked about before, and as probably several of you have experienced throughout your careers, marketing and sales sometimes don't communicate as effectively as they should. So here's a simple checklist to help both departments keep on track. So first, what and where is the exhibit attraction? Second, how should visitors enter the exhibit? Really think about that. What is the flow you want to achieve, and how are your salespeople placed? And what are your product demonstrations and your interactive things? I mean, it's really a strategy, and then leading them to making sure they don't leave the booth without being contacted or without engaging one of your folks. 3, which products need priority placement? Or what forms of media, graphics, video, interactive are needed to support selling? How should product demonstrations be done and where? Are privacy areas needed for meetings there at the booth, or if you really need some high-level private meetings, arranging for room stays at the convention hall or at a restaurant or somewhere on the property is also preferred, and you can arrange those things before the show. And then number 7, how will personal effects be stored? Now, we've got a personal example about how we had a great trade show plan. The sales and marketing were all on board. They were all synced up. I don't know what happened, if there was a new person, shipping the booth material, but at the company, somehow the table, the skirted table that was to hide all the marketing and sales material and everybody's personal effects did not get shipped to the show. And by the time everybody realized it, the show had pretty much already started, and it was too late to get it there. So they looked very unprofessional. They had everything on earth that they needed. They were prepared, but everything was scattered around the booth floor, and they just didn't look like they had it together. And it did negatively impact sales. So how personal effects will be stored seems like something small, but it actually can be a bigger reflection of how prepared you are. So now that we've covered a lot of the pre-design information, let's move on to what you should look for in an exhibit company. So there are two types of relationships you can have with an exhibit company. So the first is more transactional. So you purchase an exhibit and manage it in-house. Or it may be a partnership where you hire an exhibit company to design, build, and manage your trade show program. So there are a few key decisions that will influence that relationship. And these are things to think about. So when you're thinking about your next exhibit design purchase, if you're going to purchase a custom modular exhibit, do you have the facility to store in the correct temperatures, for example, under 82 degrees Fahrenheit and over 52 degrees Fahrenheit, and or enough space to carry and set up the exhibit each time, as well as to set up and repair, do that repair work as needed after each show, because the booths do have, they're very sturdy, but they do take some wear and tear, especially with all the travel. And one of the second things to consider is you may want to think about a partnership with the exhibit house that you hired to build, manage, and handle your entire show management program, where all you essentially have to do is show up and do what you do best, which is work the booth at the show. So there are many ways to purchase an exhibit, especially with the deals on the internet. However, your investment should be looked at as to who you want to partner with long-term to manage and care for your exhibit and your entire exhibiting program. So creating a partnership with a company that truly knows your passion and purpose for exhibiting and cares enough to help you get there is truly important. All right, I think it's time for another live poll. Go to your poll section of your admin screen, please, and go ahead and answer the following. Either choose one or the other. One, I'm currently working with an exhibiting company. Or two, you don't work with an exhibiting company at this time. All right, attendees, go ahead and answer. All right, we're still voting. Well, let's give it a minute. All right, almost everybody's voted. All right, super. Actually, I can't believe it. Oh, about half and half. Half of you work with an exhibiting company now, and half of you don't. Okay, great. Well, this is an opportunity to discover how you can strengthen your trade show program. We're going to give you some hints. So let's go to your how-to guide. On evaluating an exhibiting company. So often we forget to rely on our resources to help do our work a little bit easier, and this can be a crucial mistake. So whether you're working with an exhibiting company or not, or plan to in the future, there are several key aspects of evaluating your current company or new company that you're considering. And you can use the checklist provided in the how-to guide to interview a new company or to help make decisions to find another based on past performance of your current company, or how to ask them to enhance what they do for you. All right, so the checklist elements include a reputation review. The second is consultation. Does the company currently act in a consultative role? Do they offer a single account representative that you know you can count on? Do you have their cell phone? Are they accessible to you 24/7? Because sometimes that's how trade shows work. Client roster. What does your client roster look like? Do they open it up to you so you can call those clients as a reference and get their feedback? Do they offer comprehensive services? Now, this is really important. As you grow and become successful in your company, you want to make sure that the exhibit company you're working with can also grow with you, and they have additional support services and additional things that you might need as you grow. Options and incentives. What are they offering to earn your business and keep your business. Financial stability. What is the financial stability of the company? What are they willing to share with you? Are they paying their bills on time? What do their clients say? Customer service legacy. Now this is really important. This is one of the things where you can research them online on their website or do a search and see what activities that they're doing. And then again, see how they're projecting and how they're treating their customers and if they're in it for long term. So you can focus on moving forward today. Name 3 companies that you can evaluate, 3 exhibiting companies today before your next trade show. Go ahead and take a minute to write down your responses. All right. So now that you've done your homework well and have an idea of all the things you need from an exhibit house, let's talk about connecting with trade show attendees. With so much noise going on at a trade show, it is no wonder why attendees are distracted and exhibitors are focusing on how to better engage and interact with attendees to focus on that return on relationship from exhibiting in shows. The new Center for Exhibit Industry Research, or CEIR report, reveals attendee forward interaction preferences, and these are super important. First of all, proactive versus reactive preferences. There's an art to choosing where and when to engage, and there's a difference between men and women on how they, by gender and role, prefer to initiate interaction with exhibitors. Now, men were more open to talking with vendors they already knew at 56%, versus didn't know at 61%, than women, which chose 50% in both cases. 61% of women had a much higher preference for walking through and observing at the show without being approached, versus men at 49%. So your booth staff should be less aggressive when approaching women than men. At the same time, a large enough percentage of women were open to interaction, so don't hold back completely. Just approach with care and watch for visual cues and body language. You know, if they want you to back off, don't worry, they'll let you know. So be respectful and step back.
You know, Laura, thank you, because that really segues in to what I want to talk about, which is the meat and potatoes of this whole session, and that is interaction with different personalities. Now, you see this slide called the bird theory. Now, remember, the best salespeople communicate in the prospect style, not their own. And 93% of people's impressions of what others are not directly related to is what they say, but how they say it. So I kind of want to share with you some stats, some information. In the 1930s, the DISC analysis was created, and it assessed each person by color. You had your red dominant, your yellow was your persuasive, your green was your relator, and your blue was your analytical person. And by the 1970s, there was a Dr. Couturier who developed the bird theory. Now, this was due to the fact that most people couldn't really remember their exact colors and assessments easily from the DISC assessment. So the bird theory uses the same coloring, but it puts it with a bird name. So your red dominant influencer is known as the eagle. Your yellow, charismatic, and persuasive person is your peacock. Your green bar relator is the dove, and the blue is the analyzer equals the owl. Now remember, today's internet educated consumer has changed everything though, and they've done their research and they know what they want. They're pressed for time, they have no interest in being sold or listening to salespeople using yesterday's sales tactics and strategies and trying to push them. In reality, outdated sales pitches work against salespeople by driving up buyer resistance, whether face-to-face, at trade shows, or even on the phone. So as we go through the bird theory today, remember, it's all about respecting age and youth for communication success. So be sure to have your downloadable PDF document and go to page 4 for a visual reference and enlarge the page. So while I go over the details of each bird personality with communication preferences and styles, the visual PDF document gives you the names of the birds, and while we go through each one, remember this. Each one of us has a dominant bird personality and a secondary bird personality. And we all have different personalities depending on the environment that we're in. So an example, your work bird personality might be different than you're having fun with your friend's bird personality and your family bird personality. So let's look at this from the work mode personalities. The key is to know yourself first before you can effectively communicate with others. So listen for key areas that can cause conflicts between the birds for strengths, weaknesses, irritations, and how decisions are made. This will give you great insight for communicating with diverse people. Also, as I read each slide for the bird personalities, I challenge each one of you to be thinking of which is your dominant personality that you communicate mostly with. In today's work environment, people are accustomed to talking past each other, and it's extremely costly when this happens. So today, we're going to talk about how you can recognize the general characteristics of people using these bird profiles in tandem with generational differences for effective communication, so you can learn how to soar through meetings in person or on the phone with diverse participants, to inspire and decide like an eagle, to influence like a peacock, to be a team player like a dove, and problem solve like an owl. Now let's get to my favorite part, going through each of these bird personalities. And as I go over each bird trait, look for those common traits and for opposite traits that can create misunderstanding or conflict in communication, whether written or verbal. So let's talk about the eagle. The eagle is the red on the disc analysis, also known as the director. Now the type of car they like to drive is something like a Hummer or SUV. When you're at a show and you see an eagle approaching, you'll see these traits. Their behavior pattern is controlling and very direct. Their pace is fast and decisive. Their priority is a task or result. Their appearance is businesslike and powerful. Their source of security is control and leadership. Their fears are being taken advantage of. And they measure their personal worth by results, task record, progress, and being number one. Some celebrities to relate to would be like Donald Trump, Lee Iacocca, and Dr. Robert Romano from ER. Their strengths are delegating, leadership, and inspiring others. Their weaknesses, they can be insensitive, impatient, and dislike details. Under stress, they can withdraw and become headstrong, and their decisions can be dictatorial and critical. Their motivation is productivity and bottom line results. Typical jobs for someone with this personality would be CEO, president, military leader, sales manager, marketing manager. So when you see an eagle coming your way, they'll be dressed in business-like attire, and if they're casual, they won't be in sweats unless they're truly going to the gym. Now, casual to an eagle is business casual. So when they approach you, they'll come shake your hand, and they'll look you directly in your eye and introduce themselves. Now, when talking with an eagle, be direct and to the point with your answers, and answer every question they ask, as they are quick with the questions and they want quick answers. They might even ask you, how much does this cost? But cost is not their driving motivator. Talk about the value and not the features and benefits. And use buzzwords such as, this product or service will save you money, or save your bottom line, or save you time. It is efficient, and then go on to a statement as to how it is, but not with the details. They like sound bites of information, so get to the point quickly. With eagles, the close of the order will come much quicker than any other bird if you've convinced them of the savings of time and how efficient your product or service is, and talk about the results. Now, helpful hint, get to business quickly without too much storytelling, and tell them in the eye, talk to them and look them in the eye and answer all their questions like I said earlier. But the great thing about talking and working with an eagle is you always know the stage of the sale, and they make decisions quickly. They'll stay with you a long time as long as they feel you're quick to respond to their needs. Now we're going to move on to the peacock. The peacock, just like the bird, likes to fluff their feathers. The peacock is the yellow on the disc analysis. They're the influencer, the socializer. Now the type of car they like to drive is a sports car. So when you're at a show and you see a peacock approaching, you'll see these traits. Their behavior pattern is supporting and direct. Their pace is fast and spontaneous. Their priority is the relationship and interaction with others. Their appearance can be stylish, and sometimes, if 100% peacock, they can be outrageous. Their source of security is social interaction and approval of others. Now, their fears are loss of prestige. They measure their personal worth by recognition, status, and number of friends. Their internal motivator is the chase and being included. Some celebrities to relate to would be like Carol Burnett, Jim Carrey, Johnny Tapia, and Reese Witherspoon. Their strengths are persuasiveness, enthusiasm, and they can be entertaining. Their weaknesses: restlessness, ignores details, sometimes no time management or discipline. Their irritations are routine and perfectionist people. Under stress, they can be sarcastic and superficial, and their decisions can be spontaneous. Now, their motivation is fun and recognition from others. When you see a peacock approaching, you'll know when they're coming, as they'll be dressed very stylish and trendy. A man may have a starch shirt or pants and jeans, or a stylish shoes, and his hair will be well styled. A woman may have a matching purse and shoes, or a piece of ornate jewelry. Now, they'll also come into your booth and shake your hand and say, "Hi, I'm DJ." Or if they really like you, they'll say, "Oh, it's so great to meet you." They're charismatic, and people like being around peacocks. They can be entertaining. They love to make decisions. So some important buzzwords to use with this bird would be imagine this, or your new office will look like this, or this will make you look good. And create that picture, because remember, to them, a picture tells a story, and that they can see and feel. They're picture people, and they have to imagine it. It's about prestige to a peacock. Now, they value time and money too, but they value stories, and their decisions may be more emotional. And if they really like you, you're a shoo-in. Now, a helpful hint: don't go right into business talk. Get to know them first and become a storyteller if you can. Also, look them in the eyes when talking and answer all their questions with voice reflection, if possible. Now we're going to move on to the dove. Now, the dove is also known as the relator, and they're the green bar on the disc analysis. Now, they get along, 95% of doves get along with all personalities. The type of car they like to drive is a minivan. So when you're at a show and you see a dove approaching, you'll see these traits. Their behavior pattern is supporting and direct. Their pace is slow and relaxed. Their appearance is casual and compliant. Their source of security is friendship and support. Now, their fears are set in change. Now, they don't like to change vendors very often. And they measure their personal worth by the depth of relationships and compatibility. Their internal motivator is being needed and involved. Now, some celebrities to think about would be Mary Tyler Moore and Winnie the Pooh. Now, who as a kid did not like Winnie the Pooh? Their strengths are listening, teamwork, and follow through. Their weaknesses: they can be oversensitive, sometimes slow to start, or lack of goal setting. Their irritations are insensitive, impatient people. Now, do you hear some conflict there? And under stress, they can be submissive to others or indecisive. Their decisions are made with others. Their motivation is acceptance and all about those friendships and depth of the conversations. Now, some typical jobs for a dove would be social worker, teacher, psychologist, nurse, or executive assistant. So when you see a dove approaching, you'll not want to walk right up to them and look them straight in the eye. It's all about trust with the dove. And they usually do not walk a show alone. They'll come in a flock, or at least with one other person. They'll be dressed in compliance with comfortable shoes and clothes, and they may not be the latest style or trend, as comfort is more important. They walk slower, and they like to view the booths from afar. So if they want to see your products or services, they may stand in front of your booth space and be looking at something in your booth and not want an aggressive salesperson to approach. Be sure to approach slowly and shake their hand and speak in a softer voice. Now, their handshake will be soft, as will their voice. They do not like large groups, But they can be your most loyal customer once they believe and trust in you. Now, to a dove, it's all about the trust and the depth of that relationship, and they love to be educated. They're usually not the decision maker, but they've been sent by the decision maker to gather the information to bring back to that person. Now, here's some key traits to know about, though. Some important buzzwords when communicating with a dove. Did I cover the information you wanted to learn? How does this make you feel? Do you have any questions? Softly touch their shoulder, but be careful, male to female. This doesn't mean make it too personal. It means they're more touchy-feely people. Their decisions or influence to the decision maker who sent them will be based on how they felt you gave the information. And if they feel comfortable communicating what they learned from you, and if they trusted you, they'll pass on a good word. Now, helpful hint, don't go right into business talk. Get to know them first and become an educator. Do not look them straight in the eyes at all times, as it may intimidate them, and answer all their questions with a soft teacher voice. Now, there's one caution I haven't told you yet, and that's about the attack dove. Now, if you've offended a dove in some way, even if the conversation seems friendly or if they've been your customer for a long time, and you're trying to follow up with them and you can't get them to return your call for months, this may be because you offended them, and they'll never speak to you again. They avoid confrontation at all costs, and they can hold grudges. And remember everything that was said to them by the person that offended them. Now, let's go on to the owl. The owl is known as a fact finder. Now, it's interesting that 65% of the population are owls. That is adapted, not naturally. That's because we can go on the internet, research products, plan our trips, etc. Now, they're the blue on the disc analysis. And the type of car they like to drive is the Prius. Now, go figure, a very conservative car. Now, when you're at a show and you see an owl approaching, you'll see these traits. Their behavior pattern is controlling and indirect. Their pace is slow and orderly. Their priority is a task or a process. Their appearance is proper and functional. Their source of security is being prepared and attention to detail. Their fears are criticism of their work or being incorrect. They measure their personal worth by precision, accuracy, and being busy. Now, some celebrities would be like Mr. Spock, Bill Gates, and Tiger Woods. Their strengths are planning, organizing, numbers, and knowing the facts. Their weaknesses, they can be a perfectionist and they can be critical of others. Now, remember that peacock. Now, their irritations, disorganization, unpredictability. And under stress, they can withdraw and become headstrong, just like the eagle. Their decisions are well thought out. Their internal motivator is competence and accuracy of information. Some typical jobs would be accountant, engineer, computer tech, a researcher. Now, owls usually travel alone. They'll be dressed in compliance with comfortable shoes, and usually worn shoes, as they're very frugal. If they don't see the need to buy new shoes unless they have holes or they're so worn they can no longer wear them. They, too, walk in a slower pace, and they like to view the booths from afar. If they want to see your products or services, they may also stand in front of your booth space and not look you directly in the eye, as they don't want a sales pitch or to be ambushed with sales members. They're more introvert, so you'll need to softly approach an owl with a friendly voice and a handshake. Now, to an owl, it's all about the facts and the details. They love to ask who, what, where, why, when, how, questions. And your booth staffers need to truly know the details. They have probably researched your company and know more about your company than many of your staffers. And they love to talk one-on-one. But they can take a lot of time in your booth. Owls can be decision makers, but the decision will not come easy. Now, to close for an owl, it may take 6+ months, unless they have a critical need date. And then they'll be pressed to make a decision. Some buzzwords I would say is, did I provide enough information to make you feel comfortable with your fact gathering? Is there anything else you need from me? Because remember, to them, it's all about those details with the features and benefits. Or I would ask, do you have any more questions? But be careful, as this may take more time than you're prepared for. And if you're feeling pressed with a lot of attendees walking by and you need a disengaging sentence to continue the conversation at another time, and schedule a date and time. So what I would say is, hello, Mr. or Miss Owl. Thank you for spending time in my booth. I know this isn't the right environment, and I'd really like to spend some more one-on-one time. Can we set a time to chat in the future and set that date and time? Now, some helpful hints. Don't go right into business talk. Ask them questions to open up, as they also like to ask a lot of questions. And don't try to control the conversation with an owl. And answer all the details with a soft and patient voice. Because remember, to an owl, motivation is all about accuracy and information gathering. Now, I'd like to share with you some discrepancies and some personality characteristics that you may have heard, just to be aware of. You got the peacock and owl. Now, this is the most conflicting, as a peacock's spontaneous, and they may be a little disorganized for that owl. And they talk with a lot of voice reflection and are more emotional in their decision-making. The owl needs organization, talks at a slower pace, and has more monotone in their voice when talking, and they may bore the peacock. And also the eagle and owl. Now, they may butt heads, as they're both headstrong. With the eagle, they're very controlling and direct. And the owl is also controlling, but indirect, also like passive-aggressive. The eagle wants answers immediately when asking the owl. And the owl is more analytical and needs time to think about those answers in their mind before talking. And then I would look at the eagle or peacock. The eagle doesn't want details, and neither does a peacock. And in the dove, they don't want you to go too quick. If you go too quick, and sometimes if you're in a hurry, they may feel rushed. So I hope you've enjoyed this bird information. And now this is just an overview in 20 to 30 minutes, but try using it on your next face-to-face or telephone call. You can tell within 60 seconds by body language, eye contact, handshakes, dress attire, and even on the phone, voice reflection, each person's primary bird language. Try it out for yourself. Laura, let's go over a quick reference to kind of recap what we just talked about.
All right, well, there's a quick reference with the birds in your how-to guide, excuse me, that you can use and take to your sales trainings, use it at the booth, or a quick reference. There's a downloadable link there in the how-to guide. So I think you should have everything that you need. Go ahead and click on that guide, and it will give you a full 8.5 by 11 page. I always enjoy hearing about the different personalities, and I've seen this work in action with DJ in her training. Better personality communication is really important because you can use it on the booth board, you can use it any day actually, and start to think about the people in your work life and your home life so you can communicate better using this information. All right, DJ, now that we know about the bird theory, tell folks what the most important part about that is.
Well, really it's about communication with the 5 generations in addition to the personalities. Because today we're shoulder to shoulder in today's workplace and trade shows. So what I'm really saying is, how do you play nicely in the sandbox with everyone else at the trade show?
All right, well, let's take a look at these 5 generations in the workplace. And for those of you who noted that it was muffled when I spoke and you couldn't hear me very well, I've switched from the headset to handheld. So if this helps, please give me an indication, or I'll go ahead and try another trick, okay? All right, so where there are many research reports on generational timelines, and there are lots of variations, we're going to go with the most popular timelines noted. First of all, traditionalists. They were born prior to 1946. Baby boomers, born between 1946 and 1964. Gen X, born between 1965 and 1976. Millennials, or Gen Y, born between 1977 and 94. And Gen 2020, or Gen Z, born after 1995. Think about it. There are large companies right now that have all generations under one roof, for example, a Walmart, or a small company. If you think about it, maybe like a mom-and-pop restaurant or something like that, where everybody's still working and helping to support the business. So supportive behaviors, let's go ahead and take a look at the traditionalists first. So supportive behaviors and tips for communicating with traditionalists include their values, which are very important to them. Privacy, hard work, trust, formality, and social order. By nature, traditionalists are private, the silent generation. Don't expect members of this generation to share their thoughts immediately. You probably know this by having maybe a great-grandpa or grandpa. You want to know if they're okay health-wise or something like that, and they really don't divulge anything. That's not a surprise for a traditionalist. For the traditionalist, an educator's word or his or her bond. So it's important to focus on words rather than body language or inferences. Face-to-face or written communication is preferred, and please don't waste their time or let them feel as though their time is being wasted. Interactions for traditionalists include etiquette manners. They're a big part of this generation. Remember the yes sirs and the no ma'ams? This generation believes in good manners, so please don't talk with your mouth full as you may offend them. Value their experience. This generation has seen a lot to compare to the other generations, and they have the experience and knowledge to embrace. So use them in mentor programs. They can help develop others through their expertise. And please don't text them. Pick up the phone, because they're not going to respond to text most likely. Now let's move on to the boomers.
Yep, and we are on the home stretch, everyone. So let's talk about those boomers. There's many of them, born between 46 and 64. Now, they've begun to retire from the workforce, and they require the younger generations to step up into leadership roles, and also requires the boomers to transfer their knowledge. Now, some values they have: they love competition, change, hard work, success, body language. They're anti-rule and regulations, and they believe everyone is different. Now, boomers are the show-me generation, so your body language is important when communicating, and they read that unspoken body language when listening. So speak with an open, direct style, but avoid that controlling language. Answer their questions thoroughly and expect to be pressed for those details. And present options to demonstrate flexibility in your thinking. Now, some interactions, they believe in what every adult learner needs to know. How does this topic apply? Is it useful to me? They're also very optimistic and see the glass half full compared to half empty. Now, some of the younger boomers prefer in-person meetings, webinars, and visual Skype conference calls, and they like to be in control of the message. Now, they also don't trust smart mobs, and they want expertise information from experts. They enjoy a more casual training atmosphere, and they prefer a more participative, interactive format. And they embrace that team concept and lead by consensus. They don't respond well to role playing. Now, older boomers, born between 46 and 55, for follow-up communication, send that personal thank you card after meeting with them. And call them on the phone. Then I would try emailing or maybe social media, but not likely. And don't text them. Now, if they're a late boomer, you can try emailing, then calling. And they may even be savvy in texting because they probably raised teenagers and had to learn how to communicate this way. Now, they most likely have dabbled in social media, and they can be reached through different channels also. Now, boomers, they may have had several careers and employers or types of jobs, but they're well diverse with their knowledge.
All right, that brings us to Gen X. Now, they're sandwiched in between the retiring boomers and the more tech-savvy Gen Y. There are not enough of Gen X to replace the boomers in terms of management and replacement for their leadership, but their ability to self-direct is critical in leadership roles, so we need them. They value entrepreneurial spirit, loyalty, independence, creativity, information and access to information, as well as quality work-life balance. Now, please keep them in the loop. Use informal communication. They're fast learners, so don't repeat it 2, 3, or 4 times. They prefer coaching on the spot. They want direct, honest answers and the bottom line. They're hardworking, love a challenge, want relaxed rules with casual dress codes. They have clear goals and prefer managing. They work hard, but they'd rather find a quicker, more efficient way of working so they have time for fun. While boomers are working hard to move up the ladder, Xers are working hard so they can have more time to balance work and life responsibilities. This generation is flexible, and that's a plus. Now, while boomers are retiring, they're not retiring, again, because of the effects of the recession. They're not retiring as fast as Gen X might want. So Gen X is holding back, and they're trying to enjoy life and waiting for that glass ceiling of those retiring boomers to finally break.
And that brings us to Gen Y. Now, Gen Y will be the major source of replacement for workers, for the boomers. Now, they're highly tech savvy, but they also need to be micromanaged sometimes, which has proven to be a drain on some company resources. Here's some supportive behaviors and tips, though, for communicating with Gen Y. They value positive reinforcement, autonomy, positive attitudes, diversity, money, and technology. Now, their generation is currently over 40% of the world's population and increasing. Now, companies that employ these workers, they're realizing greater abilities to find information, to communicate, and collaborate tightly with colleagues and customers. Now, the Gen Y's motto is work to live, not live to work, like the boomers. Now, while they may lack some manners and social skills of those before them, Gen Y are fluent in today's technologies, and they possess great business acumen, and they have a firm grasp of money matters than those before them. Now, their childhoods were filled with trophies and adulation, and Mr. Rogers saying, "You're special." Now, Gen Y interactions, they will resent if you talk down to them. And seek their feedback constantly and provide them with regular feedback. Use humor and create a fun learning environment if you're trying to talk to them at a trade show, but don't take yourself too seriously. Now, they want instantaneous and instant feedback for any questions or needs, and they need that instant gratification also. Now, they prefer texting and emailing over telephone calls, and the written word is much faster, and they love social media. They thrive in a fast-paced technological world. So be sure to embrace their technology knowledge. Now let's wrap up with Gen Z, also known as the digital generation. Now, Gen Z are unique. They've grown up with the internet. This generation is very well networked with social networks and many means of communication and means of entertainment at their fingertips, such as cell phones, iPod, iPad, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, instant messaging, and the list goes on. Digital networking and sharing is common, and many have not known a time without the internet and are often referred to as digital natives. Now, this generation, they're more individualistic. While members of Gen Y are group and team-oriented, like the boomers, members of Gen Z are more self-directed. Some can be described as impatient and instant-minded. Psychologists are claiming they have an acquired attention deficit disorder, and that's probably because of their dependency on technology is high and their attention span is much lower, as opposed to previous generations who read books and other printed materials along with watching TV. Now, 25% of Gen Z are also reported to have above-average intelligence and strong ambitions. Look at the high school students who are going to high school and college at the same time and graduating with 4.5+ GPAs, or going into college with 30+ college credits as a new college student. Now, they also thrive on creativity and individualism. Gen Z is expected to be the most environmentally aware generation to enter the workforce. Companies that are focusing solely on profit without regard for the efforts of the planet, they probably won't make the grade for these green workers. Now, some interactions to them, socializing may not consist of being face-to-face at all times, but maybe sitting in the same room in close proximity and seeing instant messaging or texting one another. Now, they totally understand social networking and use of technology, and they thrive on this style of communication rather than face-to-face. So if you're following up with a Gen Z from a visit at your booth at the show, try texting first, then social media second, then emailing. But lastly, pick up the phone to call because you may not get an answer. So now that we've covered these generations, 5 generations, let's have Laura do a quick recap.
All right, everyone. In your how-to guide, there is a quick overview of the 5 generations and their communication styles and the comparison. So use this quick reference during your trade show planning to do sales training, to help identify current strengths and weaknesses of their trade show staff, help identify potential company employees in the younger generations that you may be able to train in sales, and to talk about succession planning, And then also identify communication and generation styles for key customers and targets to better develop those relationships. So now that we focus on the differences between generations because it outlines the challenges we face in communication, we also have commonalities. So let's talk about the universal needs in the workplace. So first of all, traditionalists, drive to defend. They lead to, a drive to defend leads to feelings of security and confidence, which they need. Red equals boomers, drive to acquire. They want to be promoted and get the corner office. Pink equals Gen X, drive to bonds. They want to feel proud to be part of the organization. Purple is Gen Y, drive to comprehend, desire to make a meaningful contribution with challenging job for growth. And green is Gen Z, drive to globalism, desire to work in a virtual world environment. Now, there are many ways you can leverage these universal needs to strengthen your work teams, better your companies, and better serve your companies as a result, and your customers. So now let's go to your how-to guide again. Just take a quick recap in your mind of the things that you've learned today and write down the 10 things you'll do next with the knowledge you gained today. Go ahead and take a minute to do so. All right. Now let's get to your pressing issues. The next 15 minutes or so will be our Q&A session. We'll be fielding questions through GoToMeeting questions, so please ask away. Just like you did on your polls, or if you've already been engaged in the questions, go ahead and undock that. DJ and I will take as many questions as we can live, then you can reach us after the webinar. So we'll get you our contact information at the end of today's presentation as well. DJ, you want to go ahead and start fielding the questions?
Yep, I see a question here, Laura. This is for you. They wanted to know the statistics that were represented from the CEIR on slide 2 and 9. They wanted to know where we got the stats or what year those statistics came from.
2003, or the report from Center for Exhibition Research Industry Statistics. That was the first one.
Is it 2013, Laura, or 2003?
2013. Did I say 3 or did my phone skip? Sorry about that. 2013. And then the second was 2013 report from the Center for Exhibition Research Industry Stats for what attendees really want. And again, we have one of those links in the slides as well. And if you want specific links, we can get those to you after the session today, after the webinar today.
Thanks, Laura. Here's another question. It says, which technologies seem to work best for a smaller booth size? I'll take that one, Laura. So, you know, what is really hot now, really, are large format screens, even if it's a 24 or 27-inch or bigger, where you have an app that allows attendees to engage and interact and really experience your product or service while getting a demo. And this way, you know, you can track what they do. They kind of have freedom to ask questions and pull things open in PDF files. And what I really like is it's quick and it's impressive. Now, this can be a little costly up front for some software program, but it's well worth the generation of leads and tracking information that's just in time. And I've also seen where you can have an app where you can maybe have something in your industry that gives education to the attendees. Now, they want to learn and be in control of how the message is delivered on their terms. So I'd suggest whatever lead generation or technology you have, make it engaging, either one-on-one or in a group segment, and have it where you can track what people are asking about while you're doing the engagement. Now, here's a question, Laura, for you. They say, from a marketing plan and sales plan perspective, where should trade show planning take place?
Well, that's really interesting because where can it take place can have many meanings. So let me kind of break it down a little bit. The marketing plan and sales plan should both be supportive of the overall business strategic plan. And trade show planning should have the same strategic elements as well as the marketing plan and the sales plan, because both departments rely on that trade show plan for results. They should have measurable goals and objectives to sync up, and using our checklist, especially the pre-design checklist for the exhibit group, will even help determine what those might be.
Okay. Now here's a question. It's a graphic question. They're asking if the layout mentioned on the earlier slide, they said, my boss always wants to put everything we do on our exhibit graphics. How do I convince him not to put a lot of information? That's a great question. I see this happen often when we're working with customers. And, you know, people really, they will not stop and read all the content. You know, your back wall should be a billboard mentality as really for the attendees to see what you do in 3.8 seconds or less. And then they can see your demonstrations or interaction, and the handout should tell you a story in the details. You know, think about it as if you're driving in your city. You have a highway that's going through town, or maybe on the outskirts at 65 miles per hour. Look at the billboards. They're not going to be the one with a lot of text. They're going to be the one with a big image and a few words that tell that emotional story. That's really what you should be doing with your marketing and sales team, or the person that's in charge of the messaging, is how do you get that message billboard mentality to where your handouts and everything else can tell the story. All right, Laura, I see another question. It says, what is the biggest challenge in having all generations in one workplace? Laura, I'm going to let you cover that one.
Well, communications management, and we've talked about a lot of those points, because with so many values and how they interact and all those other things that we talked about influencing, this type of segmentation can easily lead to silos and a breakdown of those communications. It can be overcome through awareness, training, and HR involvement. And it takes everybody's buy-in that this is truly an issue first. And I think most of us who have been in the workplace for a while, or even those who haven't, have already seen how challenging the generations and as well as the personality styles can be without a focused communications management effort.
All right. Here's a question. What do you suggest we have as a game in our booth if our demographic audience ranges are Gen Z and Boomers? That's like, wow. Probably Gen X, Gen Z, and Boomers, I'm thinking, is what you're asking. You know, Gen Z and Gen X love interaction, and the younger Boomers do too. But older Boomers prefer more traditional games. You know, I saw at a trade show recently where you can do like a large Jenga game, and you can put your logo on it and have two side by side, and maybe have a contest to see if they can take everything out without it collapsing. This can be fun, engaging, and you can get people to watch. Or if you're a technology company, you could do a computer game that might be interactive with a crowd to get involved. You know, I just wrote a blog, I think a week or two ago, on what are some popular games to play in your booth space. So if you want to check out the website at the end slide, you can read some of those blogs too to go over that kind of answer. Here's the question. Do you really use the bird theory every day? And how do you incorporate it into your daily thinking? Laura, you want to take that one?
Well, I know for both DJ and myself, we use it every day, and it's imperative. You know, from keeping people motivated to finding out what real career path they want or what their vision is, and it's just really invaluable information, because if you can recognize what personality type they are very quickly, you can just completely change whatever strategy or whatever communication strategy or even sales tactic you're going to use based on who they are and what's important to them. Because it's not the scripts that you've memorized, and it's not the things that you have in your head that you thought you were going to say. It's what will they listen to and what will they be receptive to, and that's the most important.
You know, and that kind of goes on to the next question. They're saying, does the bird theory really work? And how do you know you're talking to the right person? Or what suggestions to use? You know, I was hired once as a consultant to go to a large trade show for a customer and train their engineers. They were having a breakdown in communication. They had a 10 by 60 booth because they couldn't get an island. It was just sold out. And they had 5 demonstration areas and 5 engineers. What would happen is their salesperson would talk to somebody, and what they did was pipe inspection software. Now, that's not exactly sexy, right? That's very detailed. And so most of their customers or their attendees were from city, state, county, and regulatory areas. So what I did was they were losing that communication channel from talking with the prospect and turning them over for the demo. And I think what happened was they weren't talking to this prospect in their language. So I came in, and I would be the marketing person, and I would engage. I knew just enough to get me in trouble, but enough to sound like an expert. I would talk to someone if they were interested in some type of demonstration. I would train the engineer, and I would pass the handoff off the buzzwords if it were an eagle. Like, hi, engineer, this is an eagle, and, you know, they were really interested in this product. They really want to know how it's going to save them time and really how efficient is this. Well, they knew they had to be quick. If I was turning over a peacock, I would say something like, hi, Mr. Engineer, this is a peacock. You know, they're fascinated by this, but they just can't imagine how it would really work for their department. You see that buzzword I used for them to talk and voice reflection, tell a story. And then as you can kind of see as we went on, it really does work if you're using those buzzwords. Laura, I see one more question so far. I see our prospective customer base is relatively new. How do you suggest getting to know what they really want versus the research you showed us? Do you want to take that one, Laura?
Sure, you bet. You know, one of the things that people, I think, are afraid of doing is asking their customers. There's a lot of research out there that says, you know, people don't really know what they want, and when you ask them, they don't really respond. Well, I would imagine there's a little bit of truth to that, but that is not my personal experience. Just ask them. Take the opportunity to ask at trade shows, to do in-person preferences. Use surveys or interactive devices to capture what they want and what they're reacting to. Then you'll have customer information for your company's use and strategic planning. And it depends on what your goals and objectives are. If you want input on your brand or how people perceive you, ask those types of questions. If you are looking for what they want in innovative technology so you can plan your research and development, go ahead and ask them those questions too. Again, it goes back to your strategic plan as well as your trade show plan in terms of what you want from your customers. And you can use the high-level data in your research and your considerations as well. And then once you have the specific information on what your customers want, they can be worked very well together and be a very strong tool for you.
Thank you, Laura. Well, that brings us to the end. We'd like to go over some consultant and exhibit services that you might be interested in. Do you want anyone to review your trade show plan and make recommendations or create a new trade show plan or a trade show consulting services? We're offering a 10% discount on design and print, business collateral, or trade show tangible items, and that discount does expire on August 22nd, 2014.
Thanks, DJ. We also have some additional services. As we were just talking about with that question in terms of how does the marketing plan and the sales plan and the trade show plan all work together, well, it starts with overall strategic planning. We offer strategic planning for your overall business, marketing and PR strategy for your overall business, as well as planning, copywriting, PR, media distribution, and follow-up. So any trade show planning you do should, again, fit into your overall business and marketing strategies and help meet those goals and objectives. We also offer some additional resources through some partnerships. We offer sales training resources. Again, a lot of people train their sales folks, but it's not specifically trade show selling, which is a completely different animal than in-person, on the phone, or one-on-one sales. And we partner with a nationally recognized expert to make your trade show sales more effective. And our sales expert for this web series is Alice Hyman. So if you're interested in sales training or have some concerns about your current sales training, give us a call or contact us, and we can kind of assess what your needs are and then make that referral and introduction to Alice. We also have specialty items. Our vendors are on the cutting edge, including the Laceman Desired Green Promotion, and our specialty partner for this web series is OCG Creative. Again, if you're looking for something new and innovative, or you want to know what the latest trends are or what's serving your type of customer, we can help you assess that and then put you in contact with OCG. Now, DJ, let's go ahead and wrap up.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for participating on this webinar and being active with your questions today. And thanks for bearing with us on a couple of the slide technicalities. We really enjoyed the interaction and we hope you learned a lot through this webinar. I'd like to again recognize our webinar sponsor, Nomadic Display, the world's leading producer of high-quality, custom, modular, and portable trade show displays, for sponsoring our 2014 quarterly webinar series. And also be sure to register for the remaining webinar, October 21st, Making the Most of Your Trade Show Presence, How to Tie the Ribbon Around the Package. Now, you'll be receiving a follow-up email with an attendee survey. We would appreciate your time in giving us feedback so we can continue to provide you with online education to meet your needs. The email will also include a reminder about how to download your ebook copy of The Noise Behind Business, How to Make Trade Shows Work. Or if you'd like the hard copy version, email us at answers@exhib-it.com. That's answers@exhib-it.com. And we'll tell you how to get a discount off the retail copy. That's all we have time for today. We'd love to hear how you've integrated what you've learned, and especially in the future about how you applied it to better your business. We wish you all the best.